Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, TheRumpledOne, coming to you on Tuesday, December the 29th, the year's 2020. Let's talk trading. Indicators, part 2 with Walmal. Just so you know, these videos are for educational purposes only. Your results may differ from mine and from Walmal's. Walmal, happy holidays to you and yours.
And to you as well, and to all the traders that are out there. Hopefully everybody's had a great time of holiday and was able to spend some time with family and friends and just be able to maybe even take a couple of days off and relax a little bit, and so we can come back after the new year, come back strong.
So yesterday I was telling the boys and girls and non-binary traders about indicators. What's your take on indicators?
Well, I was thinking about that when you mentioned that to me a little bit earlier about, using indicators and such. And I didn't get a chance, unfortunately, to go and listen to your video. I'll have to go back and watch it and see what your take was. But, there's this big movement right now, especially in Forex, to, trade naked charts. Go and just have nothing up there but the candlesticks and just go and trade what you see. And you know what? I'm a proponent of that. I'm a proponent of just trading what you see. But there's one thing that indicators can do for you, and that is that what an indicator can do for you is it can draw a line on a chart. And I'm a statistical trader, and I draw off a line, line crosses. So it's a whole lot easier for me to have an indicator that throws that line up there. So I'm using tools. I'm using a tool in my toolbox and throwing it up on the screen and making it a little bit easier, a little bit clearer for me to go and take a trade or not take a trade. It simplifies things. And, the reality is, the Forex market's the largest market that's out there by far and away. It's the largest market out there. And because of that, at times it's moving very, very quickly. And a lot of times it's sort of like I'm looking ahead, say, okay, that's where I want to go and make my trade. If I'm doing Walmal trades, that means I want to go and take a trade at the 10 line. Right now, if you look at the chart, I want to take the trade at the 10 line or take a trade at the 00 line. And the thing is, sometimes you can get mesmerized by just looking at candles if you're not looking at the price, or you can wind up getting fixated in on the price and you're not looking at the candles, and so you're not seeing what's happened in the past. Is there a problem at that line? Is there something else that's going on there that you're not seeing clearly? So yeah, sure, you can go and trade completely naked, and there's some good things about that. But it's a whole lot easier if you got something that's like slamming you right in the face, just saying, "Hey, there's a problem area here," or "This is a good place to go," and it just makes it a little bit easier, And for instance, like what just happened right now at that 10 line, it breached the 10 line. If the thing is, I've got an indicator on my chart, and right now it shows that that would have been, the line was right there. I should have taken along there. Oh, wait a second, I've got your 3ZZ indicator up there as well, TRO, and put a 3 ball on the top. Well, you know what? I also know sometimes it goes and puts that 3 ball on the top, and as soon as it puts that 3 ball on the top, it retraces for a bit, and then it comes back, and then it will go back and break that 3 ball. You know what? I'm going to hold off on taking that trade. Just makes that thinking process a little bit easier. Now, is there a rationale for why you do that? Yeah, because obviously a lot of times it goes and puts a new high in, and then it goes and finally goes and breaks it. But it runs into some type of wall or barrier. And if you would have held off on it for that second push on it, you wouldn't have gone underwater there for a little while, and you would have, in my chart anyway. I'm not sure what you're seeing over there on your charts, but I could have been out with 4 pips, and as opposed to, sure, if I stayed in that trade, yeah, I could have still been out with 4 pips. But also, if you had watched the movement, in fact, it probably should be on your video. If you looked at that movement, not only did it go up there, put that 3 ball, but it dropped down, and I actually would have been underwater for a little while. And what does that do to me? It messes with my psychology. It messes with my head. So I like to go and have the indicators out there. Help me a little bit. It's for me, and I'm sure for a lot of other traders, the thing that goes and hurts me the most is the way I think about things. And so if those indicators can go and be used as tools to go and either eliminate some of that thinking that causes that emotion, or goes and says, you know what, it's going to be okay. It's fine. I'm all for that.
Yeah, because the main point I was trying to hit home yesterday was that indicators don't make you money.
No, they don't. Not at all. I mean, all an indicator is, it's sort of like, it's sort of like a carpenter, and in his bag he's got a hammer, and he's got a chisel, and he's got, a bunch of other tools. Do the actual tools make you money? No, they don't. It's the skill of the carpenter that makes him money. It's his ability to take those tools and use them. And what makes him money is the fact that he's got a good tool. Sort of like you go out and buy a cheap tool, and what will happen is eventually at some point in time it's probably going to go and break. Or if you've got a tool that's just not quite right for the job, then it's just not going to work very well. It's funny because I was working on my truck and I needed to replace the water pump on my truck. And the reality was that my my torque wrench, it died, it broke. And so I got an aluminum head on the truck, and I'm afraid that I'm going to go and torque down on this thing too hard, and I'm going to wind up going and cracking the head or cracking the new water pump I put on. So what did I do? I put the least amount of pressure I thought I could put on it. Well, guess what happened? I started that truck up, next day it was leaking. What did I have to do? I had to go to the store and get myself a new torque wrench so I can go and torque it back down to spec. And that's sort of like an indicator. That torque wrench is sort of like an indicator. It would have helped me with some precision. It would have helped me that the better place to get in or the better place to get out, but it doesn't make me the money. All it does is help me see things a little bit clearer.
Yep, a reminder.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Now if I was a full-time mechanic, which I'm not, I'm just a shade tree mechanic, I'm just one of these guys that I like working on cars, I always have, and like to go and sit underneath the tree, and especially in the summertime, and tinker around and make things work. So I can do basically anything I have to on the car. Difference is when it takes the guy in the shop, an hour to go and do, it takes me all day to do, but I'll get it done, Well, the thing is, that guy in the shop, he may not need that torque wrench. He can go and torque it down perfectly, and just torque it down absolutely perfectly and get it down and know exactly where he's at and doesn't leak, and he's good to go. I can't do that with a car. Now, which is interesting about indicators is that I know TRO, I've talked to you, and you've built me some indicators that I've used, and a lot of those indicators I don't even use anymore. And not because there was anything wrong with the indicator, but more because I've mastered certain things in the trade, and it's sort of like, well, I don't need to go and have that on my screen anymore because I can see it. I can just immediately see what price is doing and don't have a need for that indicator to be on my chart, crowding my chart up anymore. And I think that's another thing that indicators can do for you. It can help you and teach you so that you can go and get to that next level of being able to see what's actually happening on the chart. It's sort of like, I have the Walmal lines on my chart, but at the same time, a lot of times I don't have them on my chart, and I can still go and trade this because I've gotten so good at going and just spotting where price is at. I like having them there because it's a nice comfort, but if I happen to have one of my charts up that doesn't have it, I can spot that immediately, and just see it without even having to go and have that indicator up there. But the reason why is because I think that indicator trained my eyes to go and look. Now, there's also the danger too that comes with that, and that is that you can become dependent on your indicator as opposed to dependent on what price is doing, and that can be a danger. So you got to go and be careful with that as well.
Why do you call that a danger?
Because what will happen is sometimes you could sit there and have more faith in the indicator than you do in what's actually happening on the chart. So what happens is, it crossed the 10 line. I got to go long. No, there's more to it than that. It crossed the 10 line. Okay, that's great. It crossed the 10 line. But did we hit a bunch of resistance, back a few candles ago? That's got to go and play into it. And so if you're just completely hoping that, that indicator is going to go and get you from rags to riches, you're going to get in trouble. As opposed to, okay, yeah, the indicator, that's a good place to go long. Let me look to the left. Am I going to hit anything here? Nope, there's nothing there. I got clear sailing all the way up to the 20 line. Okay, let's go for it. Let's go and see if we can go and make 10 pips there. As opposed to just blindly going in and then going, now you're in the trade, And now you're saying, oh, shoot, I wish I would have seen what happened 3, 4, 5 candles ago. I wish I had gone and looked at what the 1 hour candle did last hour. I wish I would have seen where we're at in terms of price for the day or for the week. You know, all that stuff you should have done ahead of time. I'm not going to take a Walmal trade blindly at the 10 line unless I know those things. But sometimes we get so dependent on that indicator. Oh, it crossed the line. Bam, I'm going. Well, that's sometimes not a good idea.
Right. Well, the reason I asked you that question is because we're comparing indicators to tools, and as a mechanic, you are definitely dependent upon your tools.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, but
some more than others, of course.
Right, absolutely. But there are some tools that a tool can also, this is where the analogy breaks down a little bit between mechanics tools or carpenter's tools and trading, because the tools that we have, like with indicators, are saying go long here, or it's going and saying, okay, here's a possible entry point. And the thing is, if we go from that step of possible entry point to go long, okay, blindly, that's when you get yourself into trouble. And I think that's the difference. Whereas the tool in the carpenter's bag is, if it's a saw or it's going to cut the line, but the thing is, that saw doesn't tell you to cut the line. You have to say, I got to cut the line here, and that's the difference.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah, and the thing is, remember also, you think about a carpenter with a saw, and anybody's done any type of carpentry, knows that there's this phrase, do I cut through the line or do I leave the line? Okay, and indicators are kind of like that, even in trading, and the idea is that, okay, the indicator is saying to go and use, we're going to go and use the indicator. Now, do I use the indicator to get into the trade? Okay, I used the indicator to get into the trade, but do I leave the line or do I go and cut through the line? What do I mean by that? Okay, I'm getting into this trade. There was a trade we were talking about earlier this morning, and it's sort of like, yeah, you could have taken this trade right here, but you know what? You're looking to the left. We know that you're going to run into some trouble here. You know what? As soon as that thing stops moving in our direction, get out. It's time to get out. That's sort of like going and saying, okay, I'm going to go and leave the line there. I'm going to leave a limit there for me. Or as opposed to, okay, we got no resistance here. There's nothing there that's going to stop this, I don't think. Markets can do whatever the markets wants to do, but for the most part, it looks like we got clear selling. Well, that's like cutting through the line. I'm just going to cut through it and see where it takes me, and that's kind of how you have to use indicators. An indicator is just that. It's an indicator. It's not, again, it's not like, you pull the arm on a one-arm bandit in Las Vegas and money just pops out every time. No, it's an indicator. It's saying, hey, conditions, one of your conditions that you have in your trading plan for taking a trade has been met. And there are also indicators that you can use also for getting out, and then again, doesn't mean that you do get out. It's just more of, okay, one of the conditions that you have in your trading plan that says to get out of the trade has been met. Okay, have all the conditions been met? Yes or no? And that's what you have to do. And you have to go make sure that you're using your indicators smartly.
Exactly.
And I think that's one thing that's really underrated too, is that we're all looking for indicators for getting into a trade. Indicators can also be used for getting out of trades, and a lot of times we don't go and use that. And I think that's that. And I'll admit that that's one of my failings as well. A lot of times I could probably go and increase the amount of money I could make just by going and refining how I use indicators on the exit strategy. If you think about when you exit a trade, what are you doing? You're actually executing another trade. And the trade that you're executing is the one to get out of the trade that you were in already. What you're doing is you're completing the transaction. You're completing the other side of the transaction. So it actually is a new trade. Well, if you use an indicator to get into it, shouldn't you use an indicator to get out?
Yeah, except if you're just trying to make a couple of pips. But you know what? The fastest 15 minutes in trading is over once again. So, boys and girls and non-binary traders, we'll probably continue this because we ran out of time. So always remember, never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So go out there and drain the banks. This is the Rumpled One, over and out.